Today I'm going to be replacing the rear springs in my Landcruiser. I've put some extra weight on the back and the ones that are in it are a little bit soft, so I'm putting some firmer ones in. Now I've put this string here on the side because you measure from your guard down to the center axle to get your height of your lift. So I'm putting 2-inch lift in. It's supposed to be a 2-inch lift in the vehicle, so we'll see what it does. My little string here is going to keep track of where we're at, and at the end we'll see if it's lifted. So what springs am I going to put in? I've chosen to go with the King springs. They're Australian made. These are the 300 to 500 kilo extra weight springs to cater for my bar, my tyres, my water, the rear drawers and the long range tank. Left hand, right hand, and they give you a nice little sticker as well to put on your car. I've chocked the front wheels so that the car can't roll anywhere. You're going to want to remove the sway bar linkage. If you want to see how to replace the rubbers, please check my other video, one of my other videos on how to replace the sway bar linkage rubbers. You're going to do this to both sides of the vehicle. Next I'm going to disconnect the panhard rod. I'm going to leave this end in because it's not going to affect where I want to put the spring in. I'm going to take it apart from this end. First I'm just going to give the thread a little bit of a clean. There's a bit of muck on it. Recommend doing this because the bolts will come off a lot easier. Now what I've had to do is get a bit of steel. You got to be careful doing this because sometimes you can bust your sockets, but it just gives me that little bit more leverage so that I can undo the bolt. Now if you're going to hit a nut, make sure you have the nut out so you're not burring over the end of your thread. So I just found the bottom of the shock is very, very tight. So I'm going to remove the top, hopefully to give me a bit more freedom and room to do the job. Now because we're going to drop the diff or lift the car, these here are going to be tight and we don't want them to stretch. So you're going to have to watch your brake line and you're going to watch this. So I'm just going to undo this now and drop it down and see if I can unclip the brake line a little bit just to get that little bit more flex in it so that I can get the extra play. So I'm just going to keep an eye on this as I jack it up. And just make sure I don't stretch it because you don't want to bust your brake line. Now what I've got here is a pair of spring compressors. Probably that one. I'm doing it under the weight of the car, which is why I'm not using the full bite of the spring there, because I want to be able to get once the spring comes out, get the spring off. So as I was starting to jack it up, I noticed that it's starting to press down here on my brake bias arm. So I'm going to have to take that rod off as well. Check out my other video about how to adjust your brake bias. Just remove these ones. Which lets that whole thing drop down and my problem is solved. So I've lifted the car up on the jack. I've got it on the axle, stands down here, and I've got chocks of wood at the back so that it can't fall down on me. I'm going to take the wheel off. I've got the jack sitting under the diff so that I can lower it down to get the springs out. So with the spring compressors on, that's loose. I can just pick that up and take that out like that. So after using the spring compressors on the other side, you can actually just rock it a bit. And pull the spring out. It's a bit quicker. Now, the new springs come with a notice on them. Make sure you read it. They also have listed left hand and right hand for the two different sides. So when you're putting springs in, make sure you get the right ones. So this should now just so you want to make sure it's sitting right in the bottom, and as I lift up the jack in the middle, which is right at the bottom so it can't drop anywhere, I need to make sure it's seated correctly up in the top here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to jack it up slowly. So you want them sitting up nice and neat around up in that little receptacle thing up there. Otherwise they're likely to not sit straight and jump out. You also want to make sure they're sitting nice around the bottom here. The next step, jack it up, drop my wheels back on. Now remember to come back and tighten them back up once it's on the ground. I'm doing that now so I can get it back down on the ground and keep it safe. Even though I have got the chocks under the stands under the car there, and I've got blocks of wood to make it safe. Make sure you're safe if you're doing this. Don't jack it up and work on things that are going to be sketchy and fall over and then get under the car. You notice I've tried to stay out from under the car while it's being jacked up without the wheels on it. That way it can't fall on me. So, as you can see, I've come up about the same height. That's the new springs in. Just got to put everything back together underneath the car, do all the bolts up and everything. Don't forget to make sure you do up stuff that you haven't undone. Guys, if you've enjoyed my video, make sure you click the like button, subscribe to my channel, check out my other videos. Have fun out there 4-wheel driving, guys.